All right, the next idea we're going to talk about in section 1.8 is order of operations. Anytime we have a math problem and we have a whole bunch of different operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, stuff like that, we have to make sure that we do it in the right order or we could get a wrong answer. You might have heard of PEMDAS in your past, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? Well, those are the different orders of operation. It's kind of a silly way to help us remember what to do first and second and third and so on. The P stands for parentheses. But really, it's not just parentheses. It's parentheses, brackets, any sort of grouping symbol. So squiggly brackets, round parentheses, absolute value bars are some sort of ordering or grouping notation. A division bar groups the numerator versus the denominator. So any sort of grouping operation, we need to make sure that we do what's inside of there first. After we do everything inside the parentheses or brackets, then we're going to look to see if we have any exponents. Remember, we talked about exponents in the last video. From there, we're actually going to do the M and the D at the same time and the A and the S at the same time. Not always in that order. Some of you might have been taught or taught in the past where you did multiplication always and then division, but it's actually multiplication and division at the same time and then addition and subtraction at the same time from left to right. So as soon as you see a multiplication or division, you do that operation first, even if division is first. So you don't always just do it multiply then divide, you do it at the same time from left to right. So I always teach my students, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally for leaving the rodeo. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and addition and subtraction from left to right. All right, so it's important that we follow that order of operations when we're doing these different type of math problems so that we get the correct answer. Let's do a few to practice. If you look at example number 3, it asks us to simplify. We have 15 minus 2 times 5 plus 3. I didn't notice any parentheses or brackets, right? I also didn't notice any exponents. So now we're on to multiplication and division. And I do notice 2 times 5. One of the most important things on these types of problems is to stay very neat and organized. So that's what I'm going to do. I notice that I have a 2 times a 5. I know that 2 times 5 is 10. I'm going to bring everything else down. I have the 15, I have the negative, the 2 times 5 turned into a 10, and then I have a plus 3. Very organized. Now I have a problem that says 15 minus 10 plus 3. I notice addition and subtraction, but I'm going to do it from left to right. So the first thing I notice is the subtraction. So 15 minus 10 is 5. And then I'm going to bring the positive 3 down. Now I have a problem that says 5 plus 3, which I know is 8, which is my final answer. Making sure that I'm very neat and organized and I don't try to do too much at the same time. Let's do another one. Look at B. 1 minus 30 divided by 3 plus 7. I don't notice any parentheses or grouping symbols. I don't have any exponents, but I do notice some multiplication and division. Division on this one, 30 divided by 3 is 10. I'm going to bring everything else down. I have a 1, I have a negative sign, 30 divided by 3 is 10, and then I have a plus 7. Now I notice a bunch of addition and subtraction, but I'm going to do it from left to right. So I notice 1 minus 10 first, or 1 plus a negative 10. 1 plus a negative 10 is really negative 9. So then I have a negative 9 plus 7. Negative 9 plus 7 is negative 2. All right, let's do some more. These ones have exponents in them, so let's practice a few of those. Example number 4 asks us to simplify, and we have here 3 times 4 squared. But remember, we have to do parentheses first. So inside my parentheses, I have 3 times 4. I need to do that first before I do any sort of exponents. 3 times 4 is 12. I can't simplify 12 anymore, and so now I just have exponents. I really have 12 to the second power, 12 squared, which really means 12 times 12, 12 multiplied twice, which is 144. So making sure that you do it in the correct order of operations. All right, look at B. B looks a little bit different. Looks similar to A, but there's one big difference. You notice in B that there are no parentheses? Since there are no parentheses, then I have to move on to our next step, which is exponents. I see 4 squared, so that's what we need to do first. I'm going to leave the 3. I'm going to leave the multiplication sign. 4 squared is really 4 multiplied twice. 4 times 4 is 16. So now I have a problem that says 3 times 16. Well, 3 times 16 is 48, which is my final answer. All right, look at C. C has parentheses and exponents. By looking at my parentheses, though, there's really nothing inside those parentheses I can do. I'm not multiplying, I'm not adding, I'm not doing anything. I just have one term of -5. So I can't really do anything else inside those parentheses. Once I'm done simplifying as much as I can inside the parentheses, I need to move on to my next step, which is exponents. And I do see exponents. I see 3 squared, which really means 3 times 3, or 9, right? So I have a -5 times 9. Well, -5 times 9 is -45. So having the parentheses and the exponents means something a little bit different depending on where they're at. So be careful with that. All right. I also want to note parentheses make a big difference when I have an exponent. For example, -2 squared is a little bit different than -2 squared. I know it sounded the same, but it is different. When I have the -2 inside the parentheses, that really means I have -2 multiplied twice. -2 times -2 is a +4. But if the -2 is not inside the parentheses, what this is really saying is that I really have 2 squared times an invisible -1 in front. Or you can think of it as the opposite of 2 squared. Well, if the 2 squared is 4, the opposite of 4 is really -4. So I get a very different answer. When the negative is inside the parentheses, it means something different than if the negative is not inside the parentheses. So be careful with that.